For this first set of questions, we need to know our laboratory equipment. So all of these pieces of laboratory equipment are in the factoid sheet, so study up if you don't know them. Let's go through each of the choices and see which question they might match with. Now, A, a thermometer. I think we all know what a thermometer is. It's something that measures temperature. And none of the questions here specifically refer to temperature or measuring it in any way. So we're not going to have A as the answer to any of our questions. How about B, the separatory funnel? Well, it might sound like what it sounds like in that it separates. And what does it separate? It separates liquids. Now, if you mix together two liquids that are not mutually soluble, they don't dissolve one another. What ends up happening is the liquids settle out into different layers based on their densities. It's kind of like you would see oil resting on the surface of water. And so you would use the separatory funnel to separate those, literally, to remove each layer of your liquids mixtures so that you can separate them out. And so therefore in 3, we would be using our separatory funnel to remove the water layer from a system containing oil and water. How about this flame spectrophotometer? So that is what you're going to use as is described in number 1. So you can use that to study the emission lines of excited elements of atoms. So when you burn an element or put it into a flame, basically, it will be excited and it will give off certain characteristic lines of energy and that you can measure with this device. And so you can use this to identify, for example, what elements are in a certain mixture of something or in a certain substance, because you'll be able to tell based on the characteristic lines what is in that particular substance or mixture or whatever. So C is what you would use to measure that. The burette is what you would use during a titration. So number 4 is going to be D because that is our titration. We use that to add a liquid that we can measure accurately and see how much volume of an acid or a base we're adding to our mixture, to our solution, so that we can properly measure the end points or the equivalence points, things like that. So burette, principally used with titrations. And then finally, the volumetric flask. This is going to be a flask with a certain specific volume, which you can use to measure out volumes of liquids that you might use to, say, prepare solutions. So E would be the answer to 2, because that is used to measure out those specific amounts of volumes. For example, when you're making a solution. So we get 2 is E.